There is a big fish in that transfer portal that Greg Gard looks to be on the precipice of reeling in. We're going to talk about Nick Boyd, why he's trending to Wisconsin, and where he fits in this roster if they get him. Big time stuff. Plus, how does this front court look with Nolan Winter and potentially another transfer portal target we're going to talk about. Tons to get into today on Wisconsin. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm Nolan Winter, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Appreciate all the everydayers for making this your first listen every single day. Today's episode, we are talking about Nick Boyd and why I think he's a potential home run addition for this basketball team. Plus thoughts on Austin Rapp, another big-time basketball transfer portal target that is maybe going to head to Madison. We're going to talk about it. And then spring football buy or sell, a ton to get into on today's Locked On Badgers. We got my man Rajiv over there, the better half of me. And let's start here. So I want to start with Nick Boyd. So Futurecast 247 just put a Futurecast in today for Nick Boyd to come to Wisconsin. Nick Boyd, a 6'3", 175-pound senior from San Diego State last year, formerly of Florida Atlantic. 13.4 points per game, 3.9 assists, 3.9 rebounds, 35% from three, 75% from the line. I love this potential pickup. Like, this has been one of my favorite realistic guys that we've gone into. There's been some guys we've been linked to that haven't been realistic, like Owen Freeman. That was never going to happen. I love this pickup for the roster fit, but also for the fact that you're getting a super experienced point guard, a guy who can run the offense, allow Blackwell to cook, played in a Final Four. By the way, in that Final Four, he was the second leading scorer for Florida Atlantic. This is a true point guard with length and size, can shoot a little bit, gets in the paint. Rajiv, we're going to continue to dive into his game. I don't want to soak up all the oxygen in the first segment here. I love this potential pickup.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about big name transfers. By the way, like the roller coaster of the transfer portal is crazy. It's like we're hot on a guy, we're not on a guy. We got someone else, Like, we're all checking our Twitter updates all day, and Ryan's firing off text messages, and Justin, we're just trying to figure out what's going on. It's crazy. But this was a guy that, yeah, we've been on for a couple of days. We've talked about it. We thought we lost him, but man, here's the thing, right? When we have a tendency to get guys from lesser schools in the transfer portal for whatever reason, NIL, a lot of factors into that. But San Diego State is a program it's a big program. Like, Nick Boyd has done well, not just at a tiny school against no competition. Like, they have been a successful program, and he's done well wherever he's been. And he looks, even at a place like San Diego State, like a bit of a man among boys. The first thing that jumps off the page is his quickness and speed and decision-making, right? We need that point guard. You mentioned it. Blackwell needs to be the two. We need to take that away. It was Blackwell, it was Klesmit, it was McGee, it was all these things this past year. If Boyd can run the point, that satisfies a huge check mark off of the transfer portal wish list. And he can create his own shot. He's got a really good three-point shot, and he can kind of shoot it from anywhere. He can shoot it very quickly off of the run. Anything he needs to do, he can find ways to score. He's not afraid to attack the rim. He shoots quite a bit. He had a three-point attempt rate of 45%. That's a lot of his shots were three-point attempts. But he's heavily usage. Again, on a good team, you're talking about a guy that's used 25% of the time, right? That's really good. The other thing is assists, right? 27% assist rate. So when he's out on the floor, 27% of the time he's assisting his fellow teammates. Like, that's a really good number. And 4 assists a game are something that we really needed. I actually was curious about his turnovers, and I don't have that in front of me, but it's not that high, which is good, but very, very good roster fit. And he can create his own shot, and he can score the three, which is pretty much a requirement now on Greg Gard's offense. You have to be able to shoot the three, and you have to be able to score with a fairly high clip. He does that. Really, really good get.
Yeah, you mentioned the 26% assist rate. Highest on team last year was 18%. So you're already bringing in a guy who is easily going to be the lead playmaker on a team full of shooters. Right? You got to understand what this offense is and what we were lacking last year. One of the things we were lacking was that point guard element that can snake into the lane and then kick it out to this, plethora of shooters. If you ever watched Three Amigos, you know where plethora comes from. But the point is, there's a lot of shooters on this roster. Adding a point guard into this mix adds a layer to this offense that we didn't fully have last year. And you look at, if you dive into the numbers here, you look at synergy. He's 75th percentile as the pick and roll ball handler. He's an above average to really good. I wouldn't call him elite, but he's an above average to really good pick and roll ball handler. And you can see it. It comes from experience. A lot of navigating pick and rolls is experience, and he uses his body really well. He plays with tremendous pace. He'll engage that second defender on help and not let him release. These are veteran things that real point guards do. That takes being a real point guard to unlock those levels in the pick and roll offense. He gives you that. I would say as a shooter, I think he's good. He's not an elite shooter, right? There's some consistency stuff there. He's 35%. That's totally fine. Defenses will respect 35%, but he's not a guy that I think you want gunning a lot. You want him attacking and distributing, but I think that's fine. Defensively, or sorry, I'll pause there if we want to talk more.
Yeah,
offense.
the one thing I would say offensively on him is like, you're right. He doesn't have that elite shooting ability, but it's 35% on volume. It's 4.8 attempts per game. That's pretty good. Like that would have put us near the upper echelon of this year. But what I will say is he's a streaky kind of a shooter too. Like I feel like he's one of those guys that that quick release, that confidence he plays with, he can get hot. You're right. He doesn't need to be our primary 3-point shooter. We've got plenty of those, but he can really be that guy that, look, you need to get a bucket late in the shot clock. I feel like he can create and get spacing quickly on those quick release threes. And I think that could be really successful. That could be really a key part of his game.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, it's interesting they say we have a lot of 3-point shooters. I'm trying to think on the roster. Do we? Let
me wait. We had a lot of 3-point
No,
shooters.
I'm not even pushing back on that because Robeson could step in a role, but you do lose Crowell, Tanjay, Kamari. They're gonna have to find some more shooting. But this is a part of that. Like he can definitely shoot the ball. Really good fit on this offense on what Kirk Penny wants to do. And I think, like I said, I think it unlocks a layer that they didn't have last year. Offense is all about layers. As teams start to adjust to you, what did we see? Teams that gave us trouble, teams that could get up inside our basically our space, push our offense out because we really didn't have a counterpunch to that. Sports are all about counterpunches, right? And now if you were to land a guy like this, and I want to stress it's not official, but it looks like it's trending this way. Now you have a counterpunch when teams start to do that. Now you can engage that pick and roll offense and make it difficult on those teams that are pulled out because there's no help behind them anymore. So it's really intriguing the fit. And you think about what Penny could do with a guy like this. Defensively, you have size here, you have length. He's not an elite defender. I've heard some people put out there elite defender. I texted you guys a couple days ago. There's some consistency stuff with him defensively, but he's solid. He's not your point of attack defender that you need this offseason, in my opinion, but he's good. He has size, he has length, and he has athleticism. He will help you get better here.
So will he improve, in your opinion, based on what you've seen on this film and the synergy stuff, like the perimeter defending and the ability to stop those other opposing point guards slashing the lane? Do you think he improves that for us? Like it's a step up in that department?
Yeah, I specifically looked at that because I was curious. His synergy numbers are about average. They're about middle of the pack for defense. He's about 50th percentile in that range. I went specifically and looked at the buckets he gave up. There's moments where it looks like he just loses focus on ball. He stops moving his feet and then he gets, just straight line drive by. And some of what we saw last year, quite frankly, with our perimeter defenders, but he has better physical tools than a Max Klesman. He has better physical tools than some of the guards we've had out there. He's big, he's long, and he played. San Diego State is traditionally a really good defensive team, so I think it's there. But I would say he's a good defender. He's a B defender. He's not an elite defender.
And that quickness, even on defense, it shows up a little bit. He's got very quick feet, and I think that's important. Now, again, it's you think about how it translates to the Big Ten, but I think in this case it does, just because of the place that he played. I wanted to bring this comment up from Zach Bartz. Not only his game, but his veteran leadership and experience with deep March runs could be invaluable with newer pieces on this year's team. I think that's another kind of piece of this we got to talk about. Like, we're losing a ton of production, but a ton of leadership, a ton of age, a ton of experience. And you have a guy who can say, yeah, I've been to a Final Four. Like, I know how to play at that level. And now you have a backcourt of Boyd and Blackwell. That's a pretty hot looking backcourt right there, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, then you can look at the other pieces that we need, and Amos is the Winters of the world, but like that veteran leadership. Because look, Blackwell's still just finished his sophomore season, as did Winter. Those are our two sort of like key players coming back. We need that leadership, and I think that's a really good point by Zach. And it's something that it's a layer on top of his offense and his defense. Like, we're going to need that come really important Big Ten games next year. And of course, into the tournament. Yeah,
Zach crushing it as always. That's a great comment. And that's a big part of what you want in a point guard, right? You want a veteran leader as your point guard because they orchestrate the offense. The tip of the spear, they're going to break the press. They're going to find the right shot. He's been in all the moments. He's played big teams. He's been in a Final Four. He's played under May. So he's played under great coaching. And by the way, the other reason I like this is a plan A. Guard can identify talent. This is a plan A target for him. We're battling North Carolina for him. Like this is a top of the board, realistic top of the board type of a guy. Again, Wisconsin's not going to swim in the top 1 percentile of the portal, but for where we can swim, this is a top of the board guy, Rajiv. It's a huge win.
And it needs to happen too, right? Like it's not official. It's just what, and we don't know that it's official by any means. It's really just that future cast, which is pretty good and accurate, but it needs to hit now, right? Like we can't be this close and lose on a guy like this, because then where are our emotions going to go?
I'll be so sad if we, but again, I'll just say this. I've had multiple people reach out to me now and say, this looks good. So it's not locked up. It's not signed, sealed, delivered, but it looks good. It's trending in the good guys direction. All right, we're going to take a break there. We're going to come back and talk about another really intriguing portal target that could help solidify the front court and add to the shooting on this team. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Supply House. Listen, I've told you before, I'm remodeling my house right now. And when I say I mean, I have a guy that's coming over to help me remodel my house. And I'm sure he uses Supply House because this place is incredible. If you need plumbing, HVAC, electrical, you can get it all over at Supply House. And there's a lot of handy people that watch this show just because Badger fans are handy in general. They're easy to use website, helpful resources, latest product info, over 200,000 parts in 400 top brands. You'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help from an order, Supply House expert support, industry-leading service, you'll always be talking to a real person. For trade pros looking for an extra edge, they have the Trade Master program, exclusive perks, dedicated phone lines, free shipping, discounts in every order. Thousands of skilled professionals already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. Start ordering plumbing, HVAC, electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Yeah, let's jump back into this. Let's talk about Austin Rapp for a second. I started with Boyd. Rajiv, I'm going to kick you off with Austin Rapp, a guy that's been to Madison. Wisconsin is in this battle. There's other schools, Oregon. I think there's a couple other schools in this battle as well. What are your thoughts on Austin Rapp, 6'10" forward coming out of Portland?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is like that. I always like to look at where he's been, who he's played against. So this is one of those opportunities where you're like, how does his game translate to the Big Ten? So I'm always looking at it with that lens right off the bat. But look, he's a very skilled guy, very long, he's very athletic for his size as well. Like he can put the ball on the deck and dribble penetrate, pretty solid shooter as well. He has a 35% 3-point percentage, which is pretty good on a lot of volume, by the way. 7.6 3-point attempts a game, average 13.8 points, but at Portland. So again, it's not there. Now, when you look at Crowell and you think about replacing that and bringing in another guy in the front court, obviously offensively, okay, there's a guy that can have some of that production. What I haven't seen enough of is the 2-point back to the basket type of offense. So I need to I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. But really the question is, for me, it's defensively, and can he be something that can provide some stoutness in the lane? Because like it or not, we are losing that with Steven Crowell. Whether you agree that he's a decent defender or not, I think he is, and you're losing defensive production. So there's that piece of it. But yeah, overall, he's a good guy. We obviously need size. We need bigs. And we know that we have that sort of MO now. All our guys need to shoot. We can play 5 out. We can spread the floor. He provides that, and he kind of fills that piece that Crowell's leaving empty.
Yeah, it's a good point you made right there. He fits very well with the offensive scheme we want to run. You're talking a really good shooter, a stretch. This is, to me, we're going to get into roster for a little bit. He feels like a stretch 4. He's not even really a stretch 5. He feels like a stretch 4 to me, but that's valuable. That's a really valuable skill set. Stretch 4, the shooting is legit. You mentioned volume percentage, but when you go and look at actually a lot of his shots, they're deep shots, quick shots. It's a really quick release. It's simple mechanics. It's repeatable. I think the shooting's going to translate. He's got size, range, and depth on his shot. So I got no issues there. For the people that were frustrated with Crowell being maybe not as athletic, this is an athletic upgrade from Steven Crowell. Gets out in transition better, more skilled with the handle. You mentioned that can put the ball on the deck, can get in the paint a little bit more. He's more skilled in that sense, but he's not as big. So you're losing size, you're gaining skill. The post-up game you mentioned, he's 27th percentile in post-up offense. It's not his game. He's young. It's important to note he's young, but he's young at Portland State with a 27th percentile in the post. It's not something I would bank on. I think if you get an Austin Rapp, you're getting him to space the floor and shoot, and you're not going to throw the ball in the post much. And maybe that becomes Winter then, right? Which is possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? The question is, and let's kind of move into the roster side of it, right? If that's all right. I just feel like we look at Amos and Winter as now the front court guys on this team. And I've been saying for way too long, we just need to get a big that can be a little, a bit of a big, a true dominant big that can just defend and eat up the paint and be a bit of a rim protector. The Chris Votes of the world, the Vito Browns of the world, those types of players that even guys that had good block numbers, like a Nate Reavers. Like, I'm just saying, like, you need a guy that you can depend on defensively inside. So my thing is, do we get someone else? If we do get an Austin Rapp, do we need someone else? Like, I still think you got to have some rim protection. I'm frustrated that he doesn't have it. I do, however, like the fact that he has that game, that stretch four, as you said. But then does Winter have to play the 5? Now, do you really have 2 stretch 4s out there? Where are you going to be able to stop people on the inside? We were 13-7 in conference this year. If we didn't have Crowell's positional defending, albeit not amazing, it was still effective. You're looking at a middle of the pack Big Ten. The Big Ten is so top heavy. I mean, there's 5 or 6 teams that are going to be competing for it, and there's 5 or 6 teams that are not going to make the tournament. Everyone else is that 10-10. I don't want to be a 10-10 team. The difference is the ability to stop the Big Ten bigs. Like, you're not talking about the top guys, like the 10th, 11th, 12th best team in the conference. You have to be able to stop those guys too. This is my only concern when I look at Rapp. I'm not saying I don't like the guy. Absolutely, I love it. I'm all for it, but I still think we need someone else.
Yeah, I like Rapp a lot. You just have to be careful where those resources go, because we don't have Scrooge McDuck's piggy bank. And I struggle with the fit. And, if you have an Amos, a Winter, and a Rapp, I feel like you have 3 4s.
3 stretch 4s.
3 stretch 4s. Rapp rebound percentage is about what Crowell had. Now Crowell did it in the Big Ten. Rapp did, you're not going to get better on the glass. You're going to get worse in the post. You're going to get worse defensively on the interior. He's not going to give you rim protection. Although I will say this, there is a scenario you can look at this team and say, from freshman year to sophomore year, Nolan Winter put on about 15 pounds. He's about 235, 230 now. If he puts on another 10, 15 pounds, now I like Winter more as a 4, but you can be a stretch 5. Like, if you call Winter a 5, it doesn't mean he has to go be Dikembe Mutombo or like David Robinson. He can be a stretch 5 at 240. I like Winter's energy, and maybe that's the answer. Maybe Winter's the 5, Rapp's the 4, right? And now instead of playing that inside out with Crowell, now you're really going to just space the floor. You're going to dare opposing 5s to come out on Winter. He's going to torch them. There's a way you can squint and look at this and say, this offensive skill is going to be so good with Boyd, Rapp. You got to get a 3. You got to get a 3 now still. But there's a scenario where this team just shoots the lights out and the offense clicks, and it works. I agree with you. If you can get a backup 5 that has a little bit of bulk and a little bit of size, that would be ideal. But those guys are hard to find, man.
They are. And I'm a guy that just, like, I love old school post up type of offense. Like, I think we've done that really well over the time. And it does frustrate me that I think Crowell did a great job with it this year for the most part. There's sometimes where you just need to depend on that. You're not like, look, we had John Tonje and John Blackwell that could slash and get to the hoop, and that's fine. And hopefully with Boyd, you can do that. But there are going to be games when we're playing against really good perimeter defensive teams where we just need someone that can go back to the basket on the block, give him the ball and say, make a bucket. We could do that with Crowell. And that, it scares me. I don't think Winter's there yet. And he's definitely not there yet, but could he get there? I mean, I don't know. I think that's an interesting discussion point as well. But what worries me is, the difference between a 13-7 3 seed and a 10-10 8 seed is not that much. And these little things are going to make a difference because the Big Ten is stacked, man. Like, when you get these bigs in the conference, boy, we're going to struggle with them. And that is difficult, but outscore teams, do it again. Like we did this past year. Like, that's fun and exciting too. But I do worry about the defensive side of things. And I'm really hoping that after these last couple of years of poor defense, that there's a little bit of an uptick defensively. And I have a sense that there's really not going to be an uptick defensively, and that's difficult.
Yeah. Easton says, I feel like we need a playable true 5. I would agree. I would love a 5. This is what I've been saying for years with Crowell, though. Those guys aren't easy to find. And that's what I've been telling people. Like, Crowell's not perfect. It's hard to find a 5, though. It's just hard. And I don't know if we're going to get, here's the thing. If you get a Rapp, he's not going to come super cheap. Boyd is definitely not going to come cheap. You have to pay to keep Winter and Blackwell. You still need a 3. Like, I don't think you're going to have the money to pony up for another 5 that's going to be an impactful player.
I feel like maybe there's a line of, look, I know he's a bench guy. I think even at the like, think about the Browns or the votes, for example, like I just think someone that can come off the bench, give you 15 minutes a game and provide that interior stuff. I don't know that you really have to pay that much for taking a shot at a guy like that? Or do we think Greppy could to take enough of a step that he can fill that role, or Garlock for that matter?
Yeah, so I think those guys are interesting, and I don't want people to write those guys off too quickly, because the role we're talking about is, can you come in for 5 to 10 minutes situationally, not even every game, because there's going to be games you don't want that backup 5 out there just because we're playing a team that's too quick, too up and down. Situationally, can you come up for 5 to 10 minutes? I'll tell you this, Greppy is legit size. Pretty good passer. Could he give you 5 next year? Maybe. Garlock is a legit 7-footer now. Garlock played in his zone most of his high school career. It's going to be tougher for him to translate right away as a freshman. But I could see either of those guys potentially, because they have real size. Real size is hard to find. What was I going to? Oh, here's what I was going to say. This is the other point I was going to make quick. If you do get a Rapp and you're going to say we're going to have a lighter but quicker, more skilled front court, I think it becomes imperative that your number 3 is a long, bouncy wing that can come in and get 5 boards a game, 6 boards a game. A guy I know we both talked about him, Keontae Jones, not the most skilled guy, but 9 rebounds a game last year. If you get a Rapp, and this is what you're going to say, we're going to be lighter, quicker in the front court, your 3 has to be an athletic dude, because he's got to be able to help now.
Yep, and that slasher on the boards, right? That guy that can get those aggressive, difficult, athletic boards that other guys that we didn't really have at times this year. And yeah, I like Keontae. I think that's a good pickup. And you're right. I mean, there's definitely some holes in his game, but it's all about putting the right pieces together, right? We've got what we think are our 2 stars on this team next year, and then we could add Boyd into that mix. Like, you just need the guys that can fill the roles, and that slasher rebounder is a role that has to be filled.
I agree. All right, we're going to take a break there. We're going to come back. I start some comments, so I want to get some comments on this, but then we have a couple football buy and sells as well, including, is there a certain running back that we all fell in love with that could maybe get a few more carries? We're going to buy or sell next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Monarch Money. Rajiv, you and I have talked about this a lot. It's super easy to lose track of where your money goes, and that's a first world problem, but like, it's super easy to do that. Monarch Money has helped me. I know it's something that you like as well. Talk to me about the joys of Monarch Money.
I mean, it's all about getting a financial command center, right? Like, it's not just about, the more you follow these things, the more you look at these things, the easier they are to manage. Well, a lot of people don't want to do that stuff. Monarch Money will do it for you and really provide you the user interface that you need to be able to quickly see what's going on with all your money, where it's going, and so you can make better financial decisions.
Yep, and you want to take control of that money, head over to Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Look at this. Not only are they saving you money, but they're also giving you 50% off the first year. Hats off. Salute to Monarch Money. Over at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Let's get into this. Let's get some comments, and then I want to do a little buy or sell football. A couple comments we got in here. Yeah, Tyler Strieber. Do we need to add more guard depth, or is Kinzinger, Robinson, Janicki good enough? Like, do you let's say you get Boyd. Do you need another guard?
So I started this earlier. I think it's a great question. I don't actually think we do, because I think at the end of the day, Janicki provided enough depth this year that he should be able to take a bit of a step. But you do have to depend on the other guys as well. Like Kinzinger is someone we're excited about. If we get to take a flyer on a guy, that's fine. But I don't think we need to really pony up for any other guards.
Yeah, I would call this one Ryan Herring's grocery shopping. Like, the missus will send me out to get like broccoli and soup stuff, and I'll pass the cookie out and I'll be like, oh, that one's on sale. Let me grab it. Right. Just, it's good to have. If you can find a guard that would help, I think it would be good to have, but I don't think it's a need either. I think Kinzinger can help a little bit this year. I do. And yeah, Janicki needs to take a step. That's where I pause. He really fell off down the stretch, but I think another year off season, a full year of experience, I think he probably just hit the wall. Yeah, I think I'm okay with this too. But if you could bargain hunt somebody, I wouldn't be against it.
Well, let me say this. Like, if the Janicki we saw at the end of the season after you hit the wall, which I agree, if that's who we get next year, trouble. If we get the Janicki that came out in spurts and he takes a jump that you would expect, as you said, with all the experience he's had, then you can get a really solid backcourt depth player, which is exactly what we need.
Jackson Taylor says, quick question. Where would you put the potential Nick Boyd transfer compared to Storr and Tanjay? So keep in mind, Tanjay was like the 250th ranked guy. This is how I would tier this out, because it's impossible to know. Like, we were super excited about Amos last year, and he still has potential, but it didn't quite live up to the role. I look at it like, is this a tier A target? Is this a top the board type target? And it is. This is a guy who is going to come in with a relative level of expectation that AJ Storr did. And that's where I would put it.
Yeah, I would put it up there. I would say Store probably. I mean, Store, I was really excited about him and in the opportunities there. Tanjay definitely surprised me for sure. Did not expect that. So I would say Store, Boyd, Tanjay, but definitely like a guy that you're like, yep, that's a huge check mark. We saw point guard, wing, and a big man, and that's a big check on the point guard. We might not know how we feel about the other ones yet, but I'm very happy with that. And it's something we didn't have. How many times we talked about Chucky this year and what he would have done for this team? Like, you have a true point guard with the shooters that we have around him. Big difference.
Yep, I agree there. I would have loved Chucky on this team. And Easton says Janicki has a motor, not worried about him. It was very true there. All right, let's hit a couple quick buy or sells like spring football. The first one is, Rajiv, good reports early, very early. Pass rush, front seven looks better. You buy or selling a significant better front seven this season?
Gosh, man. Okay. Significantly better front seven. I'm going to sell that. Slightly better. Yes. This is very much I'm very jaded and I'm sort of broken from last year and thinking that there was really a lot of hype around the defensive front, and there wasn't. And I think that this is going to be a see it. I want to see it to believe it type of a situation. Now, they know there's more size, so that's why I say slightly better for sure. You've got a lot of experience. Even a guy like Daryl Peterson, who, we've sort of like much maligned over the years. We're like, when is Daryl Peterson not going to be our starting outside linebacker? He continues to fight, man. And once again, in the spring, he's fighting. You see him on all kinds of reports coming out of the spring. So there's a step that can be expected from a guy like that. And if he can really take that, then you add that to the size with Perkins and Peterson. You talk about guys like Corey Walker. You talk about there's so many guys now that are like, yeah, I do think it's better, significantly better. I'm going to sell that.
Okay, same page. I am also selling significantly better because I think it's a cop-out to say, are they going to be a little better? Yeah, we were the worst team in college football in sacks.
They have to be better.
They're going to be a little better. I'm sorry. There's no scenario we're worse because we were worst. So yeah, they're going to be a little better. Significantly, I still think we lack the star power in the front seven. It just is what it is. Like, you need dudes. And I think we have bigger, better versions of guys we had last year, but I don't think we have enough dudes up front yet. I am also going to sell that.
Do you think Suggs could be a dude? I feel like Suggs might end up being a dude potentially, and then that's sort of one of those things where I'm like, I'm hoping for that. You're hoping that a Tanjay comes out of who you're bringing in, right? Someone that can really jump on the scene. I think he could be the guy.
Yeah, I like Suggs. Suggs had really disruptive numbers if you look at the analytics from his time at LSU. But some of these guys, man, you're right. You have to see it. Like, you remember Darian Varner? And we're like, this guy's going to be pretty good. Halfway through that year, I made a GIF of him on a milk crate, like missing. Let's try to find Darian Varner. So you never really know. Next buy or sell. And this is obviously the offensive lineman Mayer went to Minnesota, chose Minnesota, at least so far. It's still early, over Wisconsin, in-state Wisconsin, and said some very choice quotes. Basically said, I want to go to Minnesota because I think they're going to win more. I trust their ability to win more than Wisconsin. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. Buy or sell Minnesota right now, same tier program as Wisconsin?
I think you should take this one first.
I'm selling. I can't buy that. I'm sorry. Like a tiny hiatus in time, a tiny hiccup in time does not make a program. I'm sorry. That is ludicrous. It is ridiculous. They haven't won a significant bowl game since the Model T rolled off an assembly line. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And if you think Minnesota has a better chance of winning games, go there then. I'm sorry. Like, we can stop recruiting or trying to flip you if those are the comments you made. That is the dumbest thing I've heard on the internet. And it is 2025, and we've all seen the dumb stuff floating around. So no. Minnesota is not on the same tier as Wisconsin. They're not close to it because they haven't had 25 years of sustained success. One bad year does not make a program. That's ridiculous, ludicrous, insane, and dumb.
I need you to take that last minute and snip it and put it all over the place. Like, cut that into a short. That was great. That was brilliant. We did not talk about his response before the show started, and I wanted him to go first because I knew that was going to be your response. I completely agree, but you're going to say it 50 times better than I would say it. Like that. Yeah, listen, if you don't want to play for Wisconsin, don't play for Wisconsin. And if you're from Wisconsin, you're going to go to Minnesota, turn your ass around and go out of the state. I'm sorry. That's fine. Like, I want nothing to do with you. I'm not interested. Like, it's fine. We have the talent. We definitely have the talent from an offensive line perspective. And if you want to go to Minnesota, that's probably just because you wouldn't have played at Wisconsin. So that's all I'll say to that. No. You got to build sustained success to be a program like Wisconsin. I know we're having a bad couple run the years, but You look at the top, the most wins in the last 20 years, Wisconsin's near the top of that list, right? We're at a different level. Minnesota's got a long, long way to go to come anywhere near where we are.
That was a layup, but we had to hit it. That was phenomenal. It felt good to get some of that out because I just thought those comments were
cooking. You were cooking.
Those comments are ridiculous. First of all, like, you got to know if you're an in-state kid, you don't need to. That's not burning a bridge, but it's kind of like a kick in the. Anyway, we're good on that one. Next, buy or sell. Cade Yakimelli in the rotation in spring. Sounds like they're splitting reps there. You buying or selling Yak having an actual role this year? Because what he had last year was not an actual role.
Yeah, I'm buying that. I'm buying that all day because I think that looking back now, I mean, look, we had an offensive coordinator who basically had a pretty poor, at least reported relationship with the head coach. I think everything offensively was a bit of a mess last year, and everything's getting cleaned up now. You don't think Jeff Grimes came in and looked at that 8.2 yards of carry and said, what the heck was that guy doing on the bench, right? That's not going to happen in a Jeff Grimes offense, I don't think. You saw the kind of players that he used at his other schools. Like, he will play guys that can produce. And in the style of running that he has and the zone schemes, I think Yakimelli could have a really good season with him. Absolutely buying it. You cannot leave a man out of a rotation that had that many yards per carry. It is absolute nonsense to ever have that happen again. You've got to buy this.
Yeah, buying it. It's the second dumbest thing I've seen recently, other than the Minnesota comment on being on the same tier of Wisconsin or better. Yeah, like here's the other part. You mentioned it. You don't think Jeff Grimes saw that? You don't think other teams saw that and said, "Hey, why don't you come?" Hey, I think he stayed because they told him we see a better role here. Otherwise, why would he stay? You know, you can still leave after spring. I get it. It could just be a thing of let me see how I fit in this offense. But it feels like if there wasn't a real conversation about we think maybe we didn't use you enough last year, you think he probably would have left. I think he probably would have left. So I'm buying it as well. I think there's a role here for him this year.
I think it's interesting. Like, of all the players that didn't enter the portal, he's got to be at the top of the list of like, like how this guy actually stayed at Wisconsin after being basically benched for no reason whatsoever. Yeah. Thank you, Cade Yakimelli, for coming back, and he deserves to be rewarded. Last
one here, buy or sell Jaden Ballard. So a lot of early hype. Jaden Ballard, the Ohio State transfer, last year in college football, has all the physical tools. You buying or selling Jaden Ballard?
Buying Jaden Ballard for a similar reason that I mentioned earlier on Suggs. When you're at a program like that, I understand that they weren't significant like playmakers for those teams. Otherwise, they would still be on those teams. But man, the talent that's at LSU and at Ohio State, that's why you instantly have to look at that. Again, we talk about Jeff Grimes and his system with the mesh routes and the jet sweeps and stuff. Speed is going to come at a premium here, and we don't really have elite speed all throughout the team. Now, Vinny Anthony's a guy that can burn, but we need that. You talk about the ability to stretch the field and be used in different ways and areas in the offense. Yeah, I want a guy with physical tools like Jaden Ballard. And if he's showing out right now, I see no reason he doesn't. He wants to prove Ohio State wrong and say, hey, you forgot about me. You didn't give me the playing time that I needed. I'm going to come to Wisconsin and I'm going to show out. He's one of those guys that I think could really surprise a lot of people. Definitely buying him.
Yep. We have a clean sweep here. We're all on the same page on all these. I'm buying it as well. We should have put a Tanjay or Davis in here for us to get on different pages. I'm buying it as well. For all the reasons you stated, I thought it was really well stated. I would just add the other part of, we talk a lot about, you mentioned the speed, but if transfers do bring something different to the roster, and he brings the size, but also the speed, but also the size. And for how long have we talked about, man, we need another boundary receiver step up? Is it going to be this guy? And it wasn't CJ Williams. Is it going to be, Green? It wasn't Green. Is it going to be blah, blah, blah? This feels like the compliment to Vinny, where he might not have a ton of numbers, but his impact is going to outperform the stats that he actually puts up on the field. And because of that, I'm buying it as well. I think this could be one of the best pickups that they had in the portal, actually. So, yep, we have a clean sweep for G.
And the threat, too, of the ability, like, you're right, having guys like Vinny on one side and Ballard on the other, like, defenses have to really respect your boundary receivers that can get behind you that quickly. It really spreads them out. It makes the free safety make really difficult decisions. And, we can gain some advantages there. I think, again, that's part of what Grimes does. Like, he understands, he adapts his offense to take advantage of defenses by being a multiple type of a team and a multiple type of an offense. He can attack you in different ways. This is a weapon for him.
Yeah, by the way, this is the guy that gets my video game award. This is the player that every EA Sports player instantly puts number 1 on their depth chart because it's like 98 speed, 96 jump, 6'2", 6'3", and then for some reason his overall rating is at that high, but every player uses them because you can just cook people with a guy like this. So the physical tools are ridiculous. We do have a question here. Any word on Hamper's injury from Tyler? I haven't seen any word on it.
It's sad, man. It's sad. Like that, you just hate that for a guy. Like, hopefully he's back. I think all early indications are that he's out, he's back in the fall. I don't think this is going to be into, I read something about this midsummer. So hopefully he's all right. Definitely not going to see him in the spring, but hopefully he comes back and he's healthy.
All the more reason to buy Ballard stock.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not making light of anything. I'm just saying that's another reason to buy Ballard. And then one word here from Badgerman, any word on Tretch? I can tell you, I heard that it's not, I'll just say this. Don't stress it. This is one not to stress. So that's not
a concern. Not a concern, really.
Yep. All right, we're going to wrap it there. Great comment section as always. Really do appreciate everybody. When you're done here, go check out Locked On College Basketball. Obviously, March Madness is going on. Isaac Shade, Andy Patton, those are my dudes. Isaac's been on the show. Go check them out. Be the smartest college basketball fan in the room. Ton of content coming up this week. Really, really do appreciate y'all. On Wisconsin, and we will talk later.